I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have a really full agenda tonight. Can everybody who's online hear me? Just raise your hand if everything's okay. Well, other people are hiding, but I'm going to assume that you can hear me. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And someone move to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the
Okay,
agenda.
Gray, and there's a second.
I'll second.
Second. I don't have any changes. Anybody see anything? Okay, all in favor? Public input and announcements. Anybody?
Was that a public?
Oh.
I'm trying to.
Hi.
It's
Do you have
multiple
any
people want to
input-
join
Do you have
this
any
call.
public input? Welcome. Okay.
Does anyone online have any public comment?
Okay. Well, that takes care of discussing the public comment. Okay, approval of the minutes from 10/15/25, motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Josh, and a second,
Sure.
okay. Anybody have any changes, input? Nice job, Rebecca. All in favor? All right, Addie, we got to you so quick. So I want to welcome Addie. She's back as our student representative. I have asked her to do a short presentation on whatever she wants. She's also, will stay for the whole meeting, she says. Good for her. And multiple people want to join. And she also is going to have input as she wants to any of our discussions prior. She can't make motions and she can't vote, but she can join our discussions as we're discussing motions, so I did explain that to her. The other thing is I talked to her about getting together and trying to come up with a process for encouraging, recruiting, and recruiting student representatives so that we have kind of a flow, like we have two, and I mean, it's her, and you're a sophomore, right?
Yes.
So she's gonna be on it for 3 years, and how
Sorry.
about that? But to have, someone who can train the next student representatives come along. So I just wanted to let the board know that we're kind of working on that, and, okay. I was just gonna check, is there any other public input? Anybody who wanted public input who maybe didn't get right on before I move on? There's 2 others, I don't know who they are, but, okay. Okay, Addie, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for letting me come again. I am very excited. I have a good, short and sweet little presentation for everyone. Mill River had a very strong Halloween week. Starting off with something great. We had many groups, leadership groups throughout the school, sponsoring many themes and Halloween-themed events, as in MRU student leadership teams, Halloween costume contest. I am a part of the group myself, and I was also in the costume contest. I'll win. It's okay. And there was a lot of participation. The winners were posted on our Facebook page, and it was a lot of fun. There was other events, as in Triumph Honors Music Society sponsored a door decorating contest, and many advisories got very into that. And it was very cool to see the creativity between grade levels and different advisories that participated. It was very successful. and I thought it made great strides towards school spirit, and it felt very fun and easy. As I talked about last time, I did talk about the school lunches, and I am very happy to say I feel like it's gotten way better. Dr. Robinson has been in constant contact with the food service, and there's been strong improvements. There's more food, there's more options, and I've asked for a different option, and there's no problem. Me and my friend asked for like sun butter and jelly sandwiches because we don't serve peanut butter, and it was very easy and it was very nice, and it was a great new aspect to it, and it felt very calm and caring between students and the faculty. And as an example, there's many delicious foods, and specifically the cheeseburger flatbreads, I think, are very good. Ending, I am part of the school musical. This is the first musical since COVID that we've done. It's Little Women. I talked about that a little bit last time, and I would like to formally invite all of you to come to our performance. It's next Friday and Saturday, Friday at 7:30 p.m. and Saturday at 2 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. It's very fun to practice, and it's so amazing to perform. Tickets, there's little QR codes around the school, and it's on the school newsletter, and I would love for everyone to attend. As a little wrap up, I was also asked by the music director to do that, but it was part of my plan.
Can you buy tickets at the door, or do you need to buy tickets in advance?
It is tickets in advance because they're selling by seats.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So next Friday is, I'm looking at the calendar, 14th and 15th
Yes.
then. Okay.
And you said Friday is 7 p.m.?
7:30.
7:30.
And Saturday, 2 performances. That's a lot of work.
Things are going fast. That's all I have written out. I feel like the school community has been good. There's good spirit between Halloween and all the way back to homecoming was amazing. And there's many different, I feel like the groups throughout the school are doing a lot, and they're doing a good job in encouraging. And then groups are there's sports clubs, and then there's Stage 40, which is our musical theater program and just theater program. And I feel like it's going very well, and it's very fun. I see a lot of improvement since my start here in 7th grade, and it's very encouraging to see that, and I'm very proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Anybody have
much.
Any questions?
Yeah, Abby, just in the future, keep in mind, as you're talking to your fellow students and interacting, if you or any of them have a question for the board, in any way we can help you,
Yes.
we'd like to do that.
Of course. Thank you. I will take note of that. That is very helpful. Thank you.
So I have a question, where do you get your tickets? Where do you, how, they're being sold, so how do I get one?
I think it's a voucher, you order them online, and then you will get probably a confirmation email of what your seats are and that they went through. And then you will most likely show that, or there'll be something on the website that they use to indicate that you can indicate to them that you have bought a seat.
Can I get one in school here somewhere?
Yes.
Where?
Well, isn't there a QR
Yeah, there's a
code?
QR code around
We
the
can
school.
show you where the QR code is, because I'm going to be looking for it tomorrow as well.
There's
Would you
no,
just go to the
there's no
office and buy it?
person that I can hand my grubby money too and get a
He
ticket.
wants old school ticket purchase.
I'm not sure. We don't really have a box office.
Yeah.
It's the 21st century. We got to use QR codes.
I was just looking to see if it was on the school website, but you said it was in the newsletter, so.
Yeah, it's there.
Dave, I can help you figure that out, because you're in tomorrow.
Yeah, I figured Rebecca or somebody will help
Somebody,
me.
we'll get you.
Yeah.
How much are the tickets?
It is $15 for adults, $10 for students and seniors.
Oh, finally.
Well,
We're all
Yeah,
seniors
like-
almost, you know. You have to pay $15.
Anything else from anybody? Thank you, Addie, and again, thanks for being here. All right. Cheryl, for some transportation.
I think somebody's trying to get
Presentation.
in.
Carol, Tracy has her hand raised.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Or
Oh.
did.
Oh, it's Tracy Spencer. Oh,
Oh, go ahead, Tracy. I can't hear you, so make sure you're not on mute.
yeah, unmute
Hi,
yourself.
everybody.
Hi, Tracy.
I just wanted to tell you that the tickets for the show are on our Facebook page, and there's also scan codes throughout the school. Little scan codes that you can scan,
Okay,
that you can get your tickets through there. I just wanted to reaffirm that Addie was correct on that.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys for helping me keep track of that and this and that. Okay,
Okay, transportation, our favorite topic. So earlier this year, I reached out to First Student to ask them for a proposal. And the email that you see in the documents is what I received in return. So essentially, they are proposing a 5-year contract. The first one starts with this year, starting in January. This is just what they put out there. And it would say $367.50 per bus route per day, which at 7 bus routes is about $2,500 at 177 days, which is $455,000. Within that proposal, though, we pay for the gas and we maintain our school buses. So, and it does not include any of our other transportation. So I did have Stan, and you have a copy of it, the allocations for transportation from the fiscal year 2025, because that's the last one that is complete. So when I look at what we did so at 455,000, and then adding last year, the fiscal year 25, we spent about 42,000 in fuel and 36,000, almost 37,000 in maintenance. So that adds $78,000 to the total. And you can see that each year it goes up. Stan was doing the math with me. It's about a 5% increase. And then they also, she tells us, you know, what would happen with the drivers. We would also have a full-time dispatcher here that they would pay for. We would just have to provide an office space for them. Some of the positives are that their buses are, their system that they use also has a GPS, so any parent can log in and say, okay, my kid's bus is on this street right now. This is their estimated time. Our driver, the other thing that they proposed was that they were to buy our buses from us. Give me 1 second, I'll let you jump in. I'm just gonna give you my opinion on that. I think that's something you wanna think about carefully if we do wanna sell our buses. It would be a nice income for us, but then if they went up higher, you're thinking the same thing I am. Now we are beholden to them, and we know we would have to spend $1 million to get new buses. So it's just something to really think about. One of my thoughts too, as we look at redistricting, is maybe we don't sell them right away, we wait and see what happens in that, and then we decide we want to do it. I mean, this is up to you. So I'll open it up for conversation and questions.
Can you just review the numbers briefly? Their contract was for, what were they proposing?
Well, so it was broken down per bus, per day.
Right, I saw that part, but you
Oh, yeah, and
gave a figure of 400 and some.
Yeah, so for 177 days, which is our school year, it'd be about $455,000. The next year, and it would be at a 5% increase, $478,000,
But then we have to add the maintenance and fuel cost to that.
which is about an $80,000 increase.
So 455, so for this year, it would be around 535, give or take.
Yes. Now, keep in mind, that would mean we would also get a savings of not needing a bus coordinator. But this also does not include our field trips.
Yeah,
Right.
sports busing's gonna be huge.
Or the van drivers, which isn't,
Or the van drivers, which,
not a huge amount, but
no, but
still.
I would suggest we keep them.
So there wouldn't be a huge payroll
That's
savings.
included in,
There's not a huge savings, but there's also not a huge increase.
I would assume if you factor in like if they're charging that much per run, and then you're also looking at like sports trips, happening 3 days a week for the soccer season, 3 days a week for the basketball season, 3 days a week for the baseball season, softball season. I mean, you're looking at considerable additional costs
Yeah.
there.
And in
At $400 a pop.
2025, yes, we spent $76,000 on transportation for field trips and sports.
Right. So, and looks like their rate, is that comparable per like trip to what we were paying in the past, you know? Like, is it breakdown, like, is the fuel and the current bus driver salary for those extra trips comparable to what we'd be paying them to do that?
I'm not sure, because they
Okay.
didn't give me a quote for
Okay.
the field trips yet.
But probably
Right.
more.
But like our top bus driver is like $30 an hour, and they
No.
don't, isn't it, well, that was the.
We have
is it-
one at 42.
Okay, 42 on it, and then, because I couldn't remember what that range was, I was trying to figure out what it was, so it's like on a norm, so if you said, and then did they do, sorry, Kim had her hand up before I started talking, so she actually, you're good. It's just a slight derailing from that particular one. The real problem is that we don't have enough bus drivers all the time. They're gonna take our they're gonna use our bus drivers,
If they,
but
if
then
they
do they
choose
have?
to go with them.
If they choose to go with them, but then do they actually have a surplus of drivers after that fact? Because if all we're doing is switching our drivers to a contracting company, because we're not trying to do this to save money,
No,
right?
we're trying to get coverage.
We're trying to do it so we have coverage. So if it costs more money, a little bit more money to get actual coverage and say they're actually having substitute drivers, then I'm okay being like, oh, it's gonna cost a certain amount more every time. But if they don't have substitute drivers, then it's like,
We're still in the same boat.
we're
Do
still.
they have
in the-
sufficient drivers to make sure that there is never, ever a coverage gap for us?
So she tells me, they've assured me that they would have drivers for us, that they have a terminal about an hour and a half away from here, and that if there was a shortage, they would and do bring drivers
From elsewhere.
from elsewhere, bring them in. I do know that they have a contract with other districts, and they have had shortages there. So.
So they've had days where there wasn't enough drivers.
And she did tell me that, I didn't get a chance to speak with them, but that, you know, I do think they'd be willing to come talk to you about that, because that was our first question, right? Exactly what Josh said, like, this isn't about saving money, although that's good, we just need a driver.
Yeah, no, it has to happen.
Right, we just need drivers. And I'm sorry, Greg, I
Oh, no,
just
that's
want to
fine.
add one more thing. We do know that we have one driver who's retiring officially, and we do know that we have two drivers that, you know, may at some point decide to retire. So, like, it's difficult. And we already do have in our budget that we haven't used to pay for people to get their CDL.
So I have, I guess I
Yeah,
got in front of Greg.
Gray's been patient here.
Well, So the crux of the matter, as you identified and you seconded, is that we want some consistency here with drivers. And we don't want the management hassle of hiring supervisors, dealing with that's why we're potentially hiring these guys.
It's potentially for the drivers, because it's not even that we don't want to manage it, it's that we just can't get drivers.
Right, but so since we're struggling with that, we're turning to this company for that service. So it's a little disheartening to hear that in other districts, they've had shortages. So I don't understand not being a contract, or a lawyer or a business person, but it seems to me they ought to have some financial responsibility if they do have shortages, because that's the whole reason we would go to them, is that we don't have shortages, you don't have to think about it, parents don't have to worry about it, we've got reliable transportation, and if they fail to do that on any given day, there should be a penalty, because otherwise, what's the point?
Is there a penalty if they fail to do that?
Not that I have.
Not on here.
This proposal was simply that email.
Pretty simple.
Sure, it's a starting point
It's
for
a
the
starting
conversation.
point. And that could be something that we could, I know she's said that they and the team would be happy to come speak to you at a board meeting, probably virtually. And then you can ask those questions. We did meet with them and we asked them a lot of questions. And the number one question is, if someone calls out sick or happens, do you have backup drivers? Because that's why we need you here. And like I told you, they reassured us that they do have a terminal an hour to an hour and a half away, and that they would bring drivers here, even if they had to, like, house them in a hotel.
Kim? Mute, unmute.
You're just very quiet. Yeah, yeah, you're just really, really
too quiet.
quiet. But I don't know.
Shoot, y'all. Okay, well, I just don't love what they sent us. It's like really scant, and I feel like for what they're proposing, we want to be able to see more details about how they do, like their operating procedures and their policies, and it's just a strange proposal to me for such a big thing.
Right.
Right.
They're also not like a tiny company. Like, you know, they're a big company. So I think for Kim's point, maybe it is, we have to talk to them, and two, being like, to Gray's point of like, what are the ramifications for not, because giving up that power, it's not like we can do anything with our drivers at the current moment, but if
Right,
that
we're
is what we're
depending on
looking
that.
for it, then it's like we can, is that language in the contract, or can we add that in a contract? And how much would that cost us? Because they'd be like, well, sure, you can add it into the contract, but then you're gonna pay us, you know, a little bit more every, you know, year or something like that, most likely.
Go ahead. I have a question also.
I was just gonna bring up when it comes to the bus buyback offer, or whatever you wanna call that clause here, that if we sell the buses back, we also wouldn't pay for the maintenance anymore, presumably.
Or the gas.
Or the gas. So there's significant savings there, but it also maybe leaves you on an island if you need to
With no other
drive someone
options.
to a field trip or a sporting event, and you don't own buses anymore, and you don't own not own bus drivers, but you know, you don't employ your own bus drivers anymore.
So if, and obviously you might not have the answer to this, but like, so like if we are contracted with them, we can't just have a bus driver that we have go, because we wouldn't have any bus
wouldn't have a
drivers
bus
to
driver
do that,
Yeah.
right? So-
They're saying they can accommodate those things, but they need more details.
Right.
But it's just putting out
For
there to consider.
our,
And does it?
for our field trips, correct.
And does it-
Athletic and field trips, it says.
Yes, and athletics.
I'd like to know how they bill for that. For instance, is it an straight hourly rate, or is it something where you have a minimum amount of hours, so every trip is a flat 5-hour charge regardless of
Yeah.
duration? And also, what is like the lead time necessary to do these trips? You know, is it gonna tie teachers' hands if they wanna take a trip to, you know, Fort Ticonderoga? Do they need to, is it 1 week of notice, or does it need to be 90 days? Like, I would really, to Kim's point, this is a very scant proposal from a very like large company we're talking large amounts of money here. with a lot of like really vague responses. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to work in a district that owns their own bus fleet, and the maintenance drivers are usually available, so we can usually get busing relatively quickly. I don't know how this would work, but I could see if we're wholly dependent, on a company, they can kind of dictate their policies, and that could potentially hamstring teachers and the ability to meet their kids' academic needs. Again, I don't know though, because it doesn't really specify.
In my experience, when we've used a contractor, it's been like an hourly rate.
Yeah.
And usually it's been more, it's cheaper. The rate is lower if it's within school hours. So if you leave after their bus run and then you're back before the afternoon run.
But any
But it is
sporting
it
event's
is
gonna
costly
be
to
outside of
start.
hours.
Yes.
Are you paying time and a half or double time for that? Yeah, I don't know.
It's usually, they say how many, it's an hourly fee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be super reluctant to agree to selling our buses until we ran this for a year or two and see whether these guys actually do what they say they're gonna do. And also, more specifically, if their terminal is an hour to an hour and a half away, how does that work when somebody calls in a half an hour before they're supposed to do their bus run? It doesn't, so all of a
So
sudden,
kind of
then we have
false
to, then we have to
security.
consolidate a route,
Yep.
which is the whole thing we're trying to avoid.
Trying to avoid.
Addie?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I'm agreeing with all this because I myself am a student athlete, and that clearly this is an issue because we are having bus issues, but also the fact of like relying on a service that's even farther away, especially if we don't buses, would possibly again like cause more problems in the future, because I know Connie, our bus manager, she has a lot of the times come and drove the buses herself to compensate for that late time cancellation. And so I definitely agree from my point of view that it's definitely something to think about if there's a situation, how would that affect either the normal bus route or athletics or a field trip. There's many things happening in one day,
Absolutely.
especially in the fall season and the
All year
spring
round,
season,
actually, yeah.
and
Yeah, the basketball teams.
the
do
basketball
well,
teams
too.
are everywhere.
And we do a lot of field trips too, from what I can see. Sarah?
So this is a 5-year contract that's here, and it's very minimal form. Do we have to have a 5-year contract? Could you try a 1-year trial to see if it works? And to see if it's satisfactory?
I would
Or do they-
imagine we can.
Just to see how they do.
Yeah.
And I also would wonder about just getting referrals from the other school districts and calling and see what their experience has been and whether they're satisfied or not.
And I
Right.
think one of the other, the comment of like, well, we have one retiring and two are maybe considering retiring is if we actually did this, is that a convenient thing to be like, oh, now we're down to two new, but like people who were maybe we're going to last another couple of years, and now because you're going to switch, and they're just like, well, I don't want to learn a new company, I don't want to learn any of that.
Right.
Do they automatically just say, I'm done?
And they might.
And they might.
Now, there is a benefit for the drivers in the sense that they are guaranteed 4 hours a day, which I don't know if that's more or less than, but they will have minimum 4 hours. But they also can collect unemployment on our school vacations and during the summer. So.
Couldn't we
I mean, it's a
can
big
we
deal,
offer,
yeah.
Matt, if that was something that was going to attract drivers? Couldn't we offer our drivers?
Well, I mean, I brought this up, I mean, I sort of as a joke, but,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we just need
You'd
to
have to
pay
pay
a
that
lot
insurance.
more. I mean, if we're talking, this is a lot of money.
What they're charging us is not that much more. When I put the numbers together, and admittedly, sometimes I have to redo them.
So it's not that much more than.
It's
what
not,
we're paying.
I was concerned that I was going to get $1 million proposal, to
Okay.
be honest with you. Or, 750,000. It's pretty much in line with what we pay without me necessarily seeing what the field trips and the athletics are.
Okay, all right, well, no, that's
Right,
good
but,
to know. So it's not just completely out in the,
All right. So
no, and I
Stratosphere.
thought it was gonna be, to be honest with you.
Okay, so what's our directive to Cheryl?
Yep.
What's our next steps? Does anybody want to summarize that, or?
Invite them.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I
they should.
think we're gonna move forward. It's invite them with the expectation that we want to hear about shortages
Yeah,
and,
call outs.
and ideally some, like, you know, if they're giving us references or just,
I have
and
references that
just
I can.
asking, you know, having that as an opinion.
So shortages, call-outs,
Possibly a trial year, not
Yeah.
committing to a 5-year contract.
I would agree with that, and then,
I think that we need to follow a two-track course here. This is obviously very interesting, and it has the appeal of just kind of being able, assuming we work out something mutually agreeable, you sign on the dotted line and hopefully kind of forget about it, if it works. But the other thing that we should look at, and it would require a financial workup, Stan, and you would have to figure it out, you know, what if we decided to, A, pay our bus drivers a consequential amount more to make the jobs more appealing? And B, we created some kind of additional position where the role is something else but backup bus driver. So that we kind of build our own system that we continue to control. Because I just wonder about how much flexibility we're gonna lose in terms of planning field trips and all of that kind of thing, and how that could really start to add up fast. And it would be terrible, for example, if teachers feel like they're constrained in the ability to plan trips because they are expensive. I don't know, I think this is interesting, but I don't know, my notion has always been if you're having trouble filling a position, it's probably because you need to offer more money. That's the market.
we do pay well, comparatively. We pay more than 32.
Right, but are people beating down the door to
no.
take the jobs?
No, and then there was the trial prior to me where they tried to attach it to the custodial position, and then we weren't getting custodians either. Because I do think that would be helpful to attach it to another position.
Right.
Because people, they want the full-time work. What that is, though, I haven't hit on yet. I mean, we've asked paraprofessionals. I did have a teacher reach out to me about the CDL, saying potentially next year. He might be interested in that, but it would be after school, doing the field trips and the sports.
Right, 'cause they're
So,
busy
which would be
teaching.
great, right? That's what we need.
Is it worth asking the drivers what their ideas for full-time work might be?
Yeah, maybe they could,
I mean,
I don't necessarily know that the drivers we currently have would want full-time
Yeah, I
work.
did speak to
Okay.
one, and he was
I
not
misunderstood.
something we wanted to do.
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
send
There's
them
only
retired.
one, right, who
Kind of
is
almost
in the,
looking at like
who
public
is
service.
potentially going to have a larger position in the school next year, maybe. Maybe I, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Fine.
So I will reach out to them. I will invite them to our next board meeting and tell them the different things that we want to talk about, shortages, call-outs, how does that work? What do you-
Maybe work with Chance and see how many away games
Yeah.
there were last
Yeah.
school year, and then give them a rough idea of, you know, how many trips it was and approximately how many hours,
I do have that somewhere.
just so they can come with that information as well. I still think I'm not fully ready to write off the idea of the custodial bus driver position if it's an attractive enough job. I know that it's hard to find people to do those jobs, but I do think it is a successful path forward that some districts in our area are using. So I think maybe, again, looking at how those positions are advertised, posted, what the job descriptions are, and maybe really like exploring how best to craft a position, you know, long-term if we don't go with a contractor, to sort of make that shift. Because I think that a livable wage and a viable job that includes bus driving is, if this isn't the way to go, that is. Because what we have now is not working. So I I'm not really ready to close the door on that. Like, one attempt I don't think is enough.
Well, and that was kind of what I was
Yeah,
suggesting, a
agreed.
two-tiered approach here.
Yep.
not sure which is the right way to go.
The other thing I was gonna mention is if we do this, if this consolidation Act 73 happens, you know, who knows what this will look like, so if we try and lock into a 5-year contract, that could be to our detriment.
Right.
If we find out that things change dramatically, yet we're legally bound to offer.
Well, and I think
contracts, yeah.
that gives us some reason to go from a 5-year to a 2-year.
Or trial,
Whatever, because we can say, who knows?
And I'm sure they're
Literally.
aware of this, because it affects
Yeah.
their business model significantly.
Right.
Yeah, well, no matter what the district configuration is, there still needs to be
Oh, I know,
transportation.
it might be more, though.
Cheryl, can I ask about the CDL offer? You said that people have been offered CDL courses. Where do they take those courses? Is it in Rutland?
There is one in Rutland at Stafford, and there is one in
Middlebury.
Okay, so it's not
Falls,
super
too.
far away?
No, it's
You
not
wouldn't have
super-
to be away from home?
No.
And how long does it take?
6 months.
Okay, because I'm just looking online right now, and it says that there's expedited CDL courses. I mean, you'd probably have to travel somewhere.
But you still need somebody who wants to do it.
No, but
Is the
maybe
key.
if you said
Yeah.
that you would pay someone to take there's some that are like in Albany, for instance, I don't even know. If there's a candidate that was interesting, they were a potential custodian and driver, if you offered an expedited class, yes, there would be a cost, and they are willing to do it. I'm just wondering if maybe 6 months is a long time, and I know that there's some shorter courses, they may be very expensive, but it's also very expensive not having bus drivers.
And in addition, I feel like I've become a quasi-expert.
Okay, no, that's why I
on
asked you.
CDLs and transportation, more than I ever wanted to know. As a bus driver in Vermont, you also need to get 2 endorsements. You need to get an S endorsement, which is students, which is an additional thing you have to do. You have to get a P. Maybe, you need a P and an S. Now I'm forgetting what
We
they
need
are.
air brakes, is that?
And then you need, no, and the air brakes
different?
is on top of it.
Okay.
So there's 3 separate
Those
things
are
that you
normal.
need
don't-
to.
most-
So you'd have to
most
see if
CDLs
that one of those expedited courses would also
Yeah.
cover that. I'm just curious if there was a way to
Speed things up.
speed things up.
Yeah.
But, and, I mean, understanding that you would have to compensate people for that time.
Well, and so
Basically, they would be employed to take
the
the
parts that I read said it's pretty much 40 hours a week, plan on in between studying in the classroom. I don't know about studying in the classroom and on the road.
40 hours a week
You're
for 6
looking-
months?
Yeah,
5 days a week?
That is insane.
yeah, right? Now you're looking at me, now I'm questioning myself.
Yeah,
You could become a
it's
policeman with
less
less
than
training than that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I-
Okay, maybe I'm wrong, maybe.
No, no,
I
I'm sure,
need to
it's
back-
very likely that
Well,
you're right.
I-
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that it was a long, yeah. Because we had thought, what if we pay them to do this?
Yeah.
But if you're paying somebody for 40 hours a week for
For
6
6
months.
months.
And then they say, oh, I'm gonna go drive for,
Take a bus apart and put it back together.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. make $80
But it's
an hour.
definitely the P, the S, and then the air brakes as well, they need. That they don't need if they were going to go drive, say, a dump truck for, or, you know.
yeah, but if they
the
had
normal
that
truck.
basic CDL, then they would just need to probably get the extra
Right.
endorsements.
Yes, correct.
Well, I think, in terms of the plan, obviously, first student would come and
Yeah.
make their case.
Mhm.
But I would also agree that I'd like to just educate myself more about possible ways to drum up students.
Mhm.
Or not
Drivers.
students, drivers. So we're not completely, totally stuck if this
Behind it,
doesn't
yep.
work out.
Okay, so we'll put that on for agenda building. Everybody okay? Move on. Approval of bus lease. Is that a Stan thing, or are you gonna
That's a
cover that?
Stan thing. He sent,
Hey, Stan, come on over.
came out in a,
Is it
Yeah.
a chain of emails?
Yeah, it's in.
We all are.
came out in a, here he is.
Hi, Stan.
How you doing?
Hi,
Stan.
Stan.
Hello. I think today we got three bids back from financing the bus that we purchased or committed to purchasing last February. First time since I've been here, they all came back, within $100 or a couple $100 in total. Which is quite an odd thing. Usually there's a few $1,000s difference. M&T and municipal leasing both charging document fee, while Daimler doesn't. So even though they were the highest bidder on the actual lease payment, that brought them in as the lowest one in regards to total payments over 7 years. The prepayment option is if you wanted to pay the bus off in advance, which may come into play, which you've been talking about earlier. Municipal leasing, which would pretty much eliminate them. Their document had basically a penalty in there of 3% of an early payoff. The other two do not. I would be recommending M&T Bank. Number one is that we wouldn't have to use our legal team to get an opinion on the lease. M&T uses their own legal department, along with the other two. We would have to have our attorneys do it, and usually that fee is about $300. Plus they're local, and plus it'd be just much easier and saving on postage of sending things back. We just drop things off at the branch they have here in the city. So I would recommend accepting the offer from M&T Bank to go forward with this 7-year annual lease.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? Go ahead, Vic.
So, this is a lease situation. Are all our other buses leased or
Yes.
owned?
Yes, they have to be. It's called a municipal leasing, and because the board legally can't commit beyond one year. So this lease, in theory, can be terminated at any point, that you're not committed to the 7 years. If for whatever reason, you put it out the vote as a separate item, the voters don't want that in there, they come back and take the lease, and the lease is terminated. If you went to a bank for regular financing, that's a more than 1 year commitment. That's a commitment for 7 years. On a basic vehicle loan, we would have to ask the voters for approval.
And at the end of the lease period, do we own the bus?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Same thing, but it's the, avoid the, having to go through to a public vote every time you wanted to buy a bus.
So do we sell those buses after the lease is up, or how does it go?
It used to be a decent deal back in the day. Now nobody wants them. We were fortunate on this trade-in of this older bus that we traded in for this newer one. We got a $34,000 trade-in value on that one. I'm not sure why, but maybe they needed the used bus for somebody else. The total purchase price of this new bus was $139,000. We got a $34,000 trade-in, so we only had to finance $105,000. So instead of paying $22,000, $23,000 a year, we're paying a little over $17,000.
Stan, so if we pay off this 7-year terms, we own the bus after we pay 7 years off, what's the service life of a bus usually in this district? Like 10 years, 12 years?
10 years is what we've done, is pretty much, once they get to 10 years, they're kind of useless, but 10 years is.
Wear rust, wear out,
Right.
mechanical failures, okay. So it's three or 4 years of possible use beyond the lease. I was curious to know.
Right.
Yep.
And it used to, I don't know what we're budgeting still, but it used to be like basically 2 year, it would be just a rotating set of 2 buses every year to replace the buses that were fading
Yeah,
out.
I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah. But there was a period where we didn't, like during COVID, there was a year or two where like they weren't available and they didn't show up. Or
Right,
like
they
this.
Yeah, there was a backlog of orders.
Yeah. It's fine, I wasn't sure what the service life of a bus in rural
Yeah,
Vermont is.
Right.
Yeah,
Salt.
Yeah.
Connie was doing the undercoating of that.
Yeah, smart,
Aquariums.
But we
Whereas,
just,
yeah.
like, the one that we just got rid of one that was shorter than that though, right? Because it was a relatively, didn't we, the lease buyback one, did we end up doing that?
Yeah, that was we bought that one used because we couldn't buy it.
Right.
There wasn't any new ones available.
Right.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All in favor of, oh, sorry.
Why don't we ask the voters just to approve it and then we just purchase it and then we won't have 7 years of interest? Like, would it be better to do that?
Well, you mean, we said no interest.
If we just bought it as a lump sum, if we just
Oh,
bought it
if
as a lump
bought it
sum,
as a lump
I just
sum.
paid it cash.
Well, we'd still have interest on it, we'd be.
Well,
No.
Right.
we would just be having to ask for 122.
Ask the voters
for
to-
in a year instead of the 17. Yeah, I think it's just a thing that hasn't been done.
Why are we avoiding, why not just ask the voters to approve?
That'd be the voters of 4 towns, too. You wouldn't, because it would be Wallingford, Clarendon, you'd have to figure out,
Well, it would just be a ballot item.
yeah.
Just like when we ask them for extra money, for like when we did the athletics.
Well,
It
I
would
mean,
just be
the
an-
problem would be that they might say no.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the catch, right? It's easier to get them to spend the smaller amount.
Yeah, and then it's like with anything, you're gonna ask for a lump sum every year, so instead of, budgeting for 20,000.
Yeah, it's in the budget.
20,000, if you're budgeting for 20,000, you're gonna be budgeting for 150,000.
Yeah, which is,
So, I mean, that's also, an increase in the tax rate, that would have an effect, obviously.
or cause other things to not be funded.
And if you needed more than one bus, you're talking nowadays 300,000, so.
It's an interesting precedent too, because if you're then saying we want to deploy a new set of Chromebooks, that's X amount of money, well, we could vote on that, because they wear it after 5 years. Go Chrome stops calculating. So then I guess it's a philosophical question. How much control do you want to give to voters and ballot items, or how much do you want to trust that people are making informed choices with the budget? So that would be my 2 cents on that one. You know, would I want to spend $400,000 on one-to-one Chromebook deployment every 4 years? Would I want to vote for that? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, I mean, it's,
you know,
people.
or like new lab equipment, whatever it happens to be, you know. I don't know.
All right, so this is the issue before us. All in favor? Okay. All right, so no one opposed. Okay, go for it, M&T.
All right, go ahead with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks.
Thank you for your input. Okay, all right. Cheryl is now going to talk to us about her goals. And then,
I sent it to you via slides, in the event that I wouldn't be able to put it up on the screen. So if you're okay, I would just have you pull it up. So I've been here 3 months now. I've been thinking about what do we do? How do I get to know what the data of the district, right? The good, the bad, the ugly. What are we doing well? Where do we have room for growth? And what do we aspire to do? Initially, my thought was to create a strategic operating plan that was a 5-year plan, and I started developing it. And the more, because I kept thinking, I just have to ignore the fact that we're in turmoil. And then it just seemed so disingenuous to me that I decided I'm scaling back and we're doing a 2-year goal. I also, Carol and I were at the VSA training, and one of the things they said was that if you have one goal, you're like 90% that you're going to make it. If you have 2 goals, you're down to like 75 and the 50. So I have one goal, even though I'm using the term goals. So my goal, as you can see, is to complete a 2-year district improvement plan, including, it's going to be very big on stakeholder engagement, looking at our vision, our values development, and a draft improvement of our priorities in our areas of academic achievement and district operations. I think that's something I need to look at, as well as the school and healthy, safe and healthy schools. My plan would be that this plan would be adopted by the board in September of the following year. Before then, there's a lot of work to do, right? So you can read and see that my goal is SMART. It's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. David's smiling because he's an educator. And he's like, yep.
The acronym. Love it.
So I don't want to read it to you, but I do want your feedback on it, because I do think good goals change and adapt as we know more. So when I go to, where am I, the next page, what I would be doing, if you look at the timeline, I would be starting probably tomorrow. I would like to create a steering committee that helps me to guide this process. I would want input from parents, students, faculty and staff, board members, and even community members, to help me define what it is that we're doing, communicate a timeline. And then in January through March, I would start with doing surveys, focus groups, community sessions. And this is a lot of work why I need the steering committee to help me. Like, you can create as many surveys as you want, but if you don't ask the right questions, you don't get a lot of good information from it. So I need people to help me with that. And then in April and May, we would also, from that, we'd be looking at our mission, our vision, our core values. They may stay the same, they may change, right? Depending upon what we hear from the community. I just think it's a good time with the new superintendent to come in and just look at everything. And then by the end of June, I would present you guys our priorities along with measurable goals. And then I would refine that and hone it over the summer. And then I'd come to you in September and say, this is everything we've done. This is a final plan. I would like you to adopt this as our 2-year strategic improvement plan. And then my indicators of success. And I've gone back and forth with this, and then I decided I just got to put myself out there. I would like to have at least 200 stakeholders throughout this whole process. Listen, if I have 180, I'll be happy, right? But like, I really want it to come from, I want all voices to be heard. I want it, and then, you know, that I will have our vision, mission, and value statement adopted by you in June, have the framework, and then we move from there. So that is my goal statement, and I'm interested in feedback or thoughts, and that includes you too, Ed, even though I feel like I've got my back to you. I'm not trying to do that.
I think my, with all, like, I'm super encouraging of this, and I think the public outreach is always the most tricky part.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be obviously the hardest part, I actually think. And a few years ago, you know, we did some survey work, and there was, we tried to reach out in a bunch of different ways, but one of the things that, of just guidance of like, one, it's like, try to get to like PTO type meetings, or PTA, depending on the schools. But also, like, is there any energy or any space for a steering committee to make kind of almost like cold calls to parents or people that aren't actually going to be engaged with this process? They're the people getting emails. So, like, how is that a one mechanism to get, if you're looking for 200 stakeholders involvement, is like, what is there a mechanism for that? Like, maybe like creating some sort of, like, have BJ have a random generator that pops out and says, okay, here's a list of 15 names and each steering committee person is like, just try to do some sort of direct outreach or something like that, because I know we've tried like a bunch of different ways, and we're generally always gonna be, there's gonna be an issue that someone's driving, like in this case, it's like sports stuff is happening, right?
Right.
A few years ago was some other stuff. Like, we're gonna get the same people that we've been getting when we send out these surveys, so of just trying to come up with ideas of how to hit it at a different angle would be my interest in it.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly
It'd be
open to
hard.
anything. One of my thoughts too, was like when we do like the focus groups, or, like, I would like to do it in person, but I think I should also offer like a virtual. People might be more willing to, even if they don't really say much, at least sit and listen. I thought about, like, what's a local coffee shop for me to go sit in and say, hey, you know, the PTOs, I don't know, some
So-
people cold calling.
Rutland City did their vision work, which came out with the portrait of a graduate, vision for the district. And the way they did that was a 2-year process. They had a consultant come in and lead discussions within the community. And what they did is they invited leaders from various civic organizations and businesses and nonprofits in the Rutland City community, and beyond, really, but with the stake in Rutland City. So you had business leaders, you had nonprofit organizations, you had the hospital, you had Castleton, representatives invited, as well as others, to this, and they had evening sessions where dinner was served, and there were conversations facilitated around sort of what was the community's vision, with the idea over 2 years of getting to the graduate mission and vision. So I mean, I would sort of take from that this idea of proactively inviting key people in this community. I'm not sure off the top of my head who those people would be, but you could reach out to select board, you could reach out to industry, nonprofits, clubs, organizations that have a presence in this community, and very specifically invite them with a purpose, and then so you're not sort of asking for volunteers, you're actually seeking out leaders in the community. I mean, that would be what I would recommend. But again,
I think that going with the select boards is
Yeah, I do too.
just of one of many.
well, it just, I mean, because Rutland's a city.
Yeah.
So it has big, so it's similar but different, because it has big businesses, it has a hospital, it has banks. These little towns don't actually have those same big,
Well, we have
some.
We have the industrial park in Clarendon, and there's
Yeah.
several big businesses there. Wallingford has, a bunch of little shops and shopkeepers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea too, but I'm just thinking that a little town, the select boards might actually be, both.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah, I think you want a
The
smattering
airport,
of different.
the airport.
Well, I think the idea is you're looking for groups of people that are already organized under one umbrella or another, whether it's a business or the select board or whatever, as a way of, potentially getting them involved, because they're already organized at one level.
You weren't necessarily getting individuals who maybe had a particular issue that they were really like passionate about. You're looking at people who had a stake and a role in the community. And then, what didn't necessarily have a, what I mean? They weren't driven by the issue of X.
Right.
They were invested in the community and wanted to be involved. So I think that was a way to work around sort of I'm super mad about this policy, I
Yeah,
want to say
yeah.
something which is still valuable, but isn't necessarily as productive to a larger mission.
When we did the redistricting survey, I just wanted to let Cheryl know this, we got 126 responses, and that was in, I think, less than a week. We did not give a lot of time for that. So I do think surveys at one time were harder to get responses, but now, especially with the Friday newsletters from all the schools, the letters that, or the, the monthly newsletters that go home or go out in all the towns except mine.
Oh, yeah.
And, talking to town clerks about putting it maybe on their town websites for a survey link. I think that a survey in terms of starting to get input would work better than it used to in the past. You know, it's
There's-
different than a cold call.
There's also that particular survey has a lot of fear tied to it, so, and like a lot of like.
So it really caught
state
people's
engagement.
attention.
So that's gonna draw
Well,
like.
we can say, you know, we want to have a great mission and vision, so we hold on to our local schools.
Yeah.
This is
I
important.
think you need something that's a little bit controversial with surveys, or not controversial. You need to grab people's attentions.
Yeah.
So
Well, the cell
that's
phone
the problem for
survey.
you, is how to grab their
Yeah, cell
attention.
phone
Saying that
survey,
we got a huge number of replies on that one for that exact reason, because
And
it
I
was
think-
controversial.
Because it's controversial, right?
To David's point, though, I think that the surveys are great and very valuable, but it's just one cross-section of the
Right,
community.
I'm just saying it's one tool that we had quite a bit of success with, so.
I
just
can't-
Throwing that on the pile.
I know I'm, whatever, biased or something, but the leaders at GE and Rutland don't care about athletic spending at Mill River High School. They care about what are the people coming out of the school gonna be like.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So
So they have a different focus.
I think I think surveys are amazing if you want people's opinions on issues and concerns and things. But in some ways, a survey is an illusion of participation. You've put your voice out there and you've taken 20 minutes and you've said what you want to say, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Like you pass that buck to the team, you put your input in there.
Yeah.
You've been involved, but in a very minimal way. I think if we really want to boost community engagement, we need to create forums that are more than that, where it's an event, it's a recognition of achievement and the role you play, where you're respecting people to want them, not just their opinion, but their involvement.
Right.
And I think there's a difference there between offering people a chance to share what they feel and inviting people in a collaborative space to plan something of value.
And I'm not saying
So I
that
just-
one replaces the other.
Agree. Well, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure, though, that if we are looking to be deliberate in involving people and boosting engagement, we need to provide forums that are engaging, not just soliciting information and input.
Well,
So
that's
I've
your
got to be
goal.
engaging too. No.
You gotta be engaging too.
I don't know, I just,
You
No,
gotta-
no, I agree with you. And actually, you hit upon something that when I did look and see how other people have done this, they have hired a consultant. I don't feel that that's appropriate for me to ask that right now, so I'm not. So I'm going to try my best to do it myself and with help and reaching out to other superintendents. And also a part of it too, it's not just, part of it is the stakeholder engagement, but it's also looking at the data that we have internally, right? We have a lot, actually, there was something at the AOE, I was at a meeting yesterday, and I took a picture, but I couldn't see it, and it just talked about how data is just data. Doesn't mean anything till we look at it, and then it turns into information when we do something with it. And then the top part is that it gives us wisdom if we analyze it and do something with it, right? So that's what a part of it is too. I want to be able to say, like, as a district, we are very strong in this area. This is, you know, what we do well. This is where we need to focus to get to the next step. And so, and I don't really know where that's going to turn up, right? Like, I don't. So I'm kind of, you know, going along for the ride as well and going to be collecting the information and then presenting it to you guys and then creating a plan so that we have a direction, right? That's what I feel like I'm missing here as I've been sitting here thinking for, 3 months, like, okay, where do we go with this? I'm like, I need direction. And so the plan is as much for me as it is for everyone else. But I think to know what we're striving for, right? And that doesn't mean, Len and I were talking about this, I don't think we make plans where we say these things like, 100% of our students will be at or above proficient by such, those are not SMART goals, right? But like, we have to talk, maybe we do talk about, we're seeing, like, we're seeing math dip in this age range. What can we do to bolster that? Can we look at our instruction? Can we look at everything and come up with a plan?
I think the other comment of like while you were talking and just trying of thinking about that kind of thing, partially is like you're new. There's like hopefully that helps bring like just specifically to the actual people in the schools, because a lot of times if people feel like their time isn't going to be valuable or useful, then why would I want to do that?
Right.
And like I've filled out forms before and I don't see things happen. So I think actually a lot of the next year is actually you showing, accountability, you showing like taking steps when you're hearing things in the school community and taking actions on things. And that building that rapport is a big part of trying to get, people to come in. Just like, like as a board, we're struggling with that and trying to communicate clearly. And hopefully now we're a little less scary than we used to be. But it's like, it's the same thing because it's like, I can help you do my vision, but if I don't really feel like at the end of it, anything will happen because of that, then why am I going to spend my already valuable time on it? So I think that's a big part of too, of just making sure that while the process is occurring outside of it, everything else is
continuing
is working in a good way.
Anybody else have any kind and important words for Cheryl as she goes out on this?
You go, girl.
venture? Go for it. Go, girl. Yeah. And let us know how we can help.
Thank you.
All right. Data discussion for upcoming meetings. That's you too.
I feel like tonight it's the Cheryl show, and I'm not sure
Yeah.
that's a good or a bad thing.
No, it's a
It's a very good thing.
But at the last few meetings, I feel like there's a disconnect between what the principals think they should be putting out there for you as a board and what maybe you guys want, and also like what data. Because we have data, and what is it that you would like from us, basically? And I know with the principals, whatever it is that you want to see in the presentations, you will get it. So I just want to have clarity, because I feel like at the last meeting, there wasn't clarity around that. So that's why I didn't have the Mill River math team come tonight. I said, we'll reschedule you. I just want to get some, hear what you guys want and a consensus.
So should we just, if we have a specific thing that we're curious about, is this the time to say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, from the I guess I'm asking two things. What is it that you would like to see from principal presentations, right? And then what is another thing, like, that we can do a data presentation for you?
For sub-level, like the math people, and like, I don't think we expect them to, I would rather have them just present some information and have a conversation with them. I would rather see data on like a bigger scale.
Like from Jody and I?
Yeah, and that's just my personal
Well,
preference. It doesn't mean that that's the preference of the board.
Yeah.
Because I maybe you mentioned I like seeing it as like the big picture, because I have a relatively good memory, but if I'm seeing it in sections, then I don't necessarily, it's harder to compare, and also the schools are smaller, whatever, but when it's units coming in specifically from the high schools, they're really the only ones we see from them. Like, I'm more interested in hearing about what their like day-to-day actions are, and like that's how because I'm not in this school, I don't have a kid in this school, I don't know, like, and I feel like there's been some times, when we hear something one place, then I can follow it up with the math group or say like, okay, we're doing all this work in the elementary school. Are you actually seeing a difference? Like, is the money that we're spending over here like mattering there? Where, and then you can then present it in a way later on that says, okay, here is all the 7th grade performance levels and things like that. But that's just.
And along those lines, like, one of the things that I think for data to present either at the end of this year or the beginning of next year, is because we did put math interventionists at the beginning of this year. What do we see right now? Right, let's look and decide, is this something that we want to continue? Do we need to change it? I mean, it's also only 1 year, so it's hard to gauge, but I would think we need some feedback on that, right? And present some data to you on how is it working. I do know that they have tested every single elementary student individually. It's a test. At first I was like, oh, that's good. And then someone said to me, you realize that means it's a one-to-one test with these kids. And I said, good for them. So they've got a great handle on where they are, and now they're starting to implement.
David, you want to go?
It's a tough question because, I mean, we're asked to sort of look at how we want to fund positions, and we have finite resources. And I feel like we also have extreme discrepancies in terms of class sizes and things across 4 elementary schools. I would like to see, we have very different instruction happening in 4 different schools. And the idea of looking at success in Tinmouth versus Wallingford versus Clarendon versus Shrewsbury, I think that there's some value in looking at the outcomes on a more micro level in those schools and comparing them across. And what's working at Tinmouth, why aren't we doing some of those successful things in other schools? And why aren't we giving equitable access to some of the opportunities that they have in some of these smaller schools at our bigger elementary schools? I think there's some serious questions that could be discussed within that realm. And you can't have those discussions if you don't look at what's happening in those schools and what the outcomes are in those schools. If you aggregate that data, you're missing the nuance of what's working in some places and not others. At the same time, I also feel like, we need to look at some of this big level data and see how our kids are doing. Some of the statistics that were shared very quickly by the principal of the high school were deeply troubling, in math in particular. And I think that as a board, we need to make sure that the programs that we're funding and that are being implemented are leading to successful outcomes for our students. And if it's not, we have to ask some hard questions about how we're funding programs, and are we funding them well, and is the programming we're adopting working? Are we giving the right personnel money to these programs? So I think that said, I would like to see a baseline of data presented by all of the principals when they present at their schools, so we have some idea of what's working in those schools and if it is working. And I think that we need to have some meaningful conversations also with and identify what's not working. So I would like to see, personally, I'd like to see some data, across math, reading, scores, and behavior data and truancy data in all of the schools. And then I would also like to then maybe see larger district level conversations at the board once we've seen those presentations at least once a year. That's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Ned, one.
I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're asking for correctly, because if you're asking to see those numbers at individual principal presentations 2 and 3 months apart, I see almost no value in that. Because I'm not going to remember what Tinmouth said 3 months ago when I see Wallingford's presentation, and the same thing for Shrewsbury and Clarendon 6 months in the future. So I would want to see that, not aggregate like you're saying is a bad idea, but side by side at the same time.
Yeah, apples to apples.
Say something
Okay,
too?
Cheryl.
So while I think that data is important, we cannot share, say, 3rd grade at Shrewsbury because the number is too small. But we can share 3rd grade throughout the district. Does not mean, though, that internally we don't look at that data, right? I can do that with my team, and we can notice that Shrewsbury's students perform high in, geometric measures, something. And we can talk about it, but we can't do that.
Sure, because we have seen star 60 on the, we've seen charts where it's Tinmouth, blah, 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 and it has, the star 60 scores, and it has those, in general. So like that's when
Yeah,
I'm
that's what
talking
I'm
about.
looking for.
Yeah, when I'm
Yeah.
saying data, I still
Yeah.
mean you're seeing individual school stuff.
Yeah.
By grade level, or was it the school?
Don't remember.
I think
Because if the N is under 20, we can't share it.
If we're not allowed to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
the data
Then
in
it might
that
just be
format,
another
then I
school.
think we need to ask the administration to interpret that data and present an interpretation of that data.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like
Because
to agree
it
with
is
that.
very important to David, or what David said is very important. Sorry, I'm very tired. That we need to see what is working and what is not working at different schools. And if we're looking at just a district-wide level, we don't have that line of sight.
Yeah, I have to echo that point. I hear what you said, Ned, about we're not going to remember one from the next. And that's where the district presentation would have value to me, but I feel the same sort of sense of discontent from the data that we got from the last principal presentation. We need, and we probably have to figure out maybe even a kind of a standardized thing. Like, we want to hear attendance, math, English, and I'm just popcorning here.
Right.
Because I'm not a professional educator, but we can hammer out stuff that, like, we expect to hear what these numbers are. And I don't think we can let the N, to use your phrase, we can't let that get in the way. I mean, there has to be a way to look at that data, whether it's you're providing an analysis of it, but I mean, just because it's a small group doesn't mean that it's not important.
I agree.
And so I don't think we can use that as, there's got to be a way to work around that somehow. But, you know, we need the basic benchmarks to be presented to us so that we know if there's an attendance problem or a math problem. I mean, I just know the young man that was working for us who goes to Stafford, and he's a really motivated student, but when I heard how many times he was not in school, I was floored. So, anyway,
All right,
that's my 2 cents worth.
Patty?
I was overhearing some of the data collection. I heard the Star 360 test mentioned, and also a one-on-one test, or
That was our, yes, internal testing.
Internal testing?
For
Elementary
elementary math.
Okay. I definitely agree that the
Testing.
internal data collection for elementary schools is very important, because I myself has taken the Star 360 for, I think, every grade almost. And I can tell you that it being a state test that does not directly affect your grade in school, many students perform less on that test and do not necessarily care as much about that test in particular, and many of them click through it, at it being an online test. So I definitely see that this has many layers, and that data is completely and is so important for making and basing off decisions. I just would be encouraging to use internal testing, or somehow introduce the importance of this Star 360 test, which is a good test, but having that have more influence on your in-school grade, so people will care.
That's a really interesting point.
Yes.
And that's, yeah, she's at.
100% true.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always draw the test, putting that out there. But I know some close friends of mine who are in my honors classes that will still not care as much, because it has no impactful on their student life and their transcript. And so I feel, as we've continued, I was thinking about this the entire time, that it would be a good idea to go about it 2 different ways, as in introducing importance of the test into the school directly, or leaning in to internal data collection, as in teachers creating a data, like filling out a data sheet on each student. Of course, that's a big ask on teachers. Because there's so many more people in this high school than there are in the elementary schools.
Sure, but your teachers do what's called formative assessments. Those are
Exactly,
your
yes.
weekly tests, and they could report on that. And,
yes.
you know, as far as, I know literacy last year, because we had the school had put in the, tell me the name of it.
Bookworms?
Bookworms. They showed, the data showed the improvement in literacy skills, fifth grade versus fifth grade 2 years before, and they were able to show the effect that program had. And I'm thinking that our math interventionists will soon be able to give us some kind of comparison where we can look at before and after.
With the realization that it will not be as big of a swing. Because like bookworms is like, hey, this is how you teach children how to read correctly. And math is more of just like putting more energy into it. It would be my, I mean, maybe there'll be huge swing. But.
Yeah, no, I think there's ways to teach math. Go ahead, Sarah, sorry.
Well, I just wanted to say, you're asking about data, what we're looking for.
Yeah,
I'd like to say something that I feel pretty strongly about is, I'd like to see, I know you have this trick with the smaller schools about protecting anonymity, but relationships between, you specifically mentioned truancy, but also other, so for instance, the math scores are a good example. They were discouraging math scores. I mean, honestly, district-wise. But I think a lot of times with statistics, if you pull out outliers, for instance, you could have 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 students who are really struggling. Maybe they're never in school. Maybe they never take the test. So their test score is 0. They will really skew your statistics. It could very well be that the scores are much better than you think if you pulled out the students who are really struggling. And I think that truancy is a huge issue here, because if students aren't in school and they aren't taking a test, I think it's really, those two relationships I think are linked at the hip. And I'd be interested to know, has anybody done any looking into how high absenteeism impacts test scores? Because I haven't heard anything about that. And I can't believe, how could it not affect it?
Of course it does, yeah. So I'm thinking there's two separate things, though. Like, the data that you want can come from me.
Right.
I'm wondering, is that what you want from principals, though? Or do you want more of, like, a culture climate? I don't know. Mm-hmm. So I will tell you what I like. I like when schools, as a principal, I used to go in and I'd grab some of my kids that were doing something great with a teacher maybe, and then we'd come in and the students would present to you, right? And it was kind of, it brought parents out, it brought the community in, and it was a positive type of presentation. And then I might then be presenting later on, yeah, these are my scores. On different things. So I'm just wondering, like, really, and I know Kim had her hand up, so.
Yeah, and Stephen does too.
He
so
does
let's.
too.
Okay, Kim, go ahead.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
5 by 5.
That's fine. Okay. Yeah, Cheryl, I was thinking the same thing. I personally would
You
rather
need to
do-
lean in, though, I think. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I would like to use the time at the elementary schools hearing from the principals what they want to share with us, and I'm worried if we do too much focus on data that we're going to start like grilling, or it might not be that positive interaction where they get to kind of show off the things that they're excited to share with us. So I personally would rather have the data presented by you, Cheryl, or in a different way. We can invite the principals to join those meetings if they want to, if they can. But that's just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you, Kim. Stephen?
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to echo what Kim just said. I like getting the kind of school culture share from the principals. But I also, on top of that, wonder, I mean, it's not like we'd have to adjust our schedule for visiting schools because we're not going to have, I mean, I'm assuming the only times we'd have data available are right after test results have come in. And we've typically had these visits to the schools in the fall, and so they'd be, I don't think they'd have the data on the timeline that we've been working with for them anyway. So we have to either do 2 different meetings, one where we're at the school and we're getting the kind of culture piece, and another time where it's post, results from different testing that we've had, if we were to look at it that way. The other thing that strikes me in this is that a situation like the board kind of working towards creating like a math intervention program in the district is turning out, I think it's going to be a way that we are going to get a better handle on math across the entire district, as we've seen the way that it's been started to be rolled out. So another way to think about this maybe is thinking about sort of the way that we'll think holistically about math, truancy, et cetera, and different programs we maybe try and support, and then sort of get it from that side of things and not necessarily principle by principle. If that's making sense.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure, Lenny, you haven't said anything. Do you want to add anything? I just want to get everybody's input. If they want, you don't have to. I just want to, before we do second.
Yeah, I just think, what Kim and Stephen just said is important. I think in the past, we've had issues as a board because faculty and staff felt that no matter what they did, it wasn't going to be good enough for the board. And I think that's a reality that was there. And I think we also have to be careful of what our job is and what the definition of the school board is. We have to be careful, and I'm not saying we're going down that road, but I just want to make folks aware, you have to be careful of micromanaging. That's not our job. And they both Kimberly and Stephen brought up district. And that's our role, is we're the district school board, and that entails all of the schools. So we need the information from all of the schools. But, and again, as has been said, you have to be careful when you're talking about small schools that information is so identifiable that you're breaking the law.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Carol, you know that better than anybody.
Yeah. Personally identifiable information, you cannot.
And that's just what happens.
Yeah.
And I think that's when we have to depend upon, we as a board have to depend upon the leadership team to go through that information and then bring it to us.
And say, we're having a problem here, here's what we need from the board, which usually involves.
That's what I really think. As I said to Abby, come to the board and tell us what you need.
Okay, David Potter, please.
I was thinking it might be good to hear from the truant officer to kind of get it from the horse's mouth. And, it's a very complex thing. I think, we've sort of heard that there's a lot of reasons.
Well, can I share something from the conference we went to? There was a school district, huge school district, 14,000 students, so no comparison there. However, they had some kids who were chronically absent. And so they did a map of where everybody lived and where their bus routes went. And there was just this few kids that were chronically absent that lived like a mile outside of their bus routes. And that's why those kids were chronically absent. So they changed their bus route, they increased it to go the extra mile, and they no longer had the truancy problems that they had. So I do agree with you that looking at the reasons for truancy is really, really important. And so I haven't given my opinion yet, and I always have one. I think that our role in going to the elementary schools is to visit and to, thank you, is to visit and to get a sense of the culture of those schools. I think as far as data, they can bring that data here. It's cold, it's hard, it doesn't matter. When we go to the school, I don't get to visit, the elementary schools. Now you do, because you have kids,
Yeah,
you
but
do,
just
you
one.
have kids, just one. And this gives us an opportunity to really get to feel, like when we went to Shrewsbury last year, Kristen gave us a tour of all of the things, and same, when we went to Tinmouth this year, of course, it was more about repairs, but I got a good sense of what that building needs and is like. And so that way, when we're talking budget and that kind of thing, I know where that's all coming from. I'm building and grounds too, which that does help. So, so I'm just saying that I think whatever the principals want to present to us about their school, the culture, the classes, the activities, the artwork, whatever, the configuration of their teaching classrooms, whatever they feel is important, that's what I want to hear about. Okay. All right, go ahead, Ned.
I'm kind of hearing the same thing said, but I want to kind of explicitly say it. I'd also like to hear what principals are struggling with.
Yes, yeah.
It's sort of touched on a few different times, and Stephen and Kimberly said they want to hear about what is shining at these schools, but I also want to hear what they might be struggling with to see how we can
help out.
Like at Tinmouth, obviously it was
Obviously,
finite. We heard
yeah.
the facilities issues, but I want to hear what is not going well and what make the board be able to help with.
Yeah.
Through the administration or otherwise.
And I'm glad you said through the administration, because I wonder if that's more my role then.
Sure.
To share with you guys, like that they should be there with, sharing the positive and whatever it is they want to share. And I personally think if they've got students there, that's even better. Not that I would force that, but that's what I'd like.
It's hard at 7 p.m. for an elementary school, but.
Yeah, it is.
But they've done it in the past.
But, yeah.
Oh my God.
And then you do have, then like, things that they're struggling with, I don't think should necessarily come from them. It can be from me as more of a report that, we're seeing attendance or
Is there a
truancies.
mechanism for doing that, though, right now? There is.
Oh, superintendent report.
Yeah, and so that was something, thank you for reminding me of that. A superintendent report can be something that I put on the agenda. And that can just be reporting out.
We talked about having student rep, one meeting, next meeting superintendent report.
Oh, okay.
Kind of,
I might have missed that.
we've been playing around with a lot of
Yeah.
Actually, I'd like to
ideas.
echo what Ned said, though, too, just because, I know we all want to be positive all the time, because that's nice. And it's more, honestly, it's more pleasant, right? And we want the principals who have a super hard job to feel pumped up and proud of their schools. But honestly, you can't we don't want principals to feel defensive and they have to cover up things that maybe aren't as good as they should be. So yes, you are the right person to do that, because it's just human nature. Because I'm a manager. I was a manager for my whole life. I just want more information. I want to know what's wrong. So a principal can construe that as you grilling them. So,
Yeah.
but I don't think you would construe that way.
No.
So I guess
Because I'm one step removed from it, right? So I'm able to more clearly look at it as a problem that needs to be solved and not necessarily a failing, that they're failing their students or something.
because feel-good sessions
And
are
if-
awesome, but.
And if the superintendent is able to solve that problem without us, which is really what should happen,
Right.
it's not our job, like Lenny said. That's not our role.
Right.
Our role is
So
to
you bring it to
supervise
us.
her.
And then my role is to come to you and say, this is what we were struggling with, this is what I think you can do.
Bus drivers.
Well, I'm just going to be
Private
a giant stick in the mud here and say, I think that it's great to get a nice dog and pony show from the principal. And obviously, I would never want the principal to feel like they're coming before like an investigatory board to be interrogated. On the other hand, I don't necessarily agree that it's not our job to have a principal tell us, we really have a problem with X, Y, and Z. Now, not that we're then going to go back to that principal and say, well, we think you should do X, Y, and Z. That would be your job. But I think it's totally our role to understand what those problems are. And I would like personally to get a set of, it doesn't have to be long and it doesn't have to be the whole thing, but some basic outcomes of how the school is doing at any given moment.
Right.
And that's not necessarily going to all be positive.
Of course not.
So I
But give me
think
an
it's
example of a basic outcome. I'm truly trying to understand.
sure. If the math scores from Sean at the last meeting, which we just kind of blew by, but they were, to me, and not as a professional educator, just as kind of a normal person, they were shocking. So, and not to pick on him or anything, but you asked for an example.
No, and that's what I want, an example.
So there's one example.
But then
Because,
I would expect to hear, yes, our scores are here, and this is what we're doing.
better yet,
Not necessarily, how are you going to solve the problem? Because you're not.
no,
It's,
definitely
we're
not.
going to solve it internally with time or resources or, resources, we would need you, but teaching strategies.
And I don't
things
think
like
it's
that.
unreasonable to ask principals who are professionals, adults,
Mm-hmm.
at the height of their, basically, that if you're a principal of the school, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to be confident enough to be able to tell us about things that are not as good as they want, as well as all the good stuff.
I'm going to just take issue with Dog and Pony Show. I don't think that principals coming with pride
Well,
in what's happening in
Carol,
their
I'll
schools.
withdraw that language. I wasn't trying to be insulting. I was
know,
trying to
I
be
know.
honest.
I know you weren't. That's why I wanted to
Well,
take
strike
issue
it,
with
you
it.
can strike it from the,
Strike it from the
minutes.
record.
Strike
No,
it
we
from
don't-
the minutes.
You can't.
Never
unring a bell.
struck.
It's never struck, but I agree with you. I agree with everything you're saying. I just want to be sure that we understand that it's not our role to pick apart everything. It's our role to say to Cheryl, you need to go pick this apart.
Yeah.
Well,
So we
it's-
understand.
that becomes a question of scale, and I agree with you, because
Okay.
we're not administrators, we don't have actual, authority to issue instructions or anything like that.
No.
But we need to know what's going on.
Yes.
I think a little bit of both would be awesome.
Okay.
Precisely.
Let's let Dave go, and then we're
Oh,
gonna
sorry.
have to,
Yeah,
and then
Kim.
Kim, and then I'm gonna,
Yeah, Rep.
Move us along.
I think Cheryl was looking for input. I think she got a ton, but go ahead, Dave.
I'm not sure it's gonna, I need to think on this
I
input.
think you'll process it.
Yeah.
I know. Kim, I see you. Dave, go ahead.
To try to add a positive example. I've been coming to Mill River a couple times a week for the last several weeks. And I come in this door and I walk down through to the main office, and then my sort of place is right near there.
Why don't you tell, I don't know if these guys all know. Do you all know what he does here?
Well, it's not important. And my example is that in walking down through and being here for an hour or so, it seems like a very positive school environment to me. It's not disorderly, it's organized, kids are friendly, the staff and teachers that I meet in the hall are friendly. It seems like a very orderly, comfortable place of where good education can occur. That's my observation from being here a couple times a week.
Thank you for saying that.
And also as a former teacher
Yeah.
for a long time.
Kim?
But it sounds like we got to a resolution, but I was just thinking, Cheryl, from what I'm understanding, the continuous improvement plan might really spell out how we all use data. And like maybe in that plan, that steering committee can really think about like this conversation to help inform, what data is coming to the board and how we're using it, and those pieces.
Thank you.
Okay, one more thing.
So just for touching on truancy, by policy, we get a truancy report every single year. You can ask for more data, like when that's coming up, right? So like, we're legally bound by our policy to have a truancy report. If we want more information about what that what we get told at that truancy report? And do we want to have a broader knowing that we're talking about it, is there a broader conversation when we're getting that report? So that's one thing. Then two, I do think it's important to try to figure out how we're the inequities between different elementary schools, but I don't think an individual principal knows that.
Correct.
I think but through the evaluations that the principals are getting and through our conversations, I think we can hear that, not necessarily, because yeah, that's all I was gonna say. I think there's a different way to get that information that going to each individual principal isn't a big enough picture of how to fix this problem in all the schools. Not that they don't know what they're doing right or wrong in their schools.
Is there just one truant officer for the whole district, or does each school have?
It's Joe Hoffman.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Joe Hoffman, I think, is our.
Yes.
And so they work in the
He
elementary
works in
schools?
his district, yeah. He works in the whole district. Yeah. Okay. All right, so hopefully you got what you needed. And
Just think.
go sleep on it.
Yes.
All right.
Maybe a few nights on that.
Let's move into our committee reports. Personnel, Lenny.
That would be me. A couple of contracts, we did meet tonight. And we did approve a contract, so I'd make a motion that we offer a letter of employment for substitute transportation coordinator to Kimberly Manieri, starting 10/15/25, and the end date is when services are no longer needed. So I make that a motion, and it doesn't need to be seconded.
Doesn't need to be second. Oh,
Comment.
any comment?
Comment, yeah.
Oh, go ahead, comment.
Well, the position is being advertised. So that's why there's no start end date, that's all.
kind of,
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I don't know what the adjective I want to use is, funny or odd that the former athletic director is
I
coming
know.
back as our interim transportation
Yeah,
coordinator.
I mentioned that also.
But
It's small town.
I
We're
don't have a
in
problem with it at all. I'm
Yeah,
going to vote to
apparently it's
approve it.
part-time.
Yeah.
Well, and she
took another job though, so it's.
Yeah, it's a part-time job, so
which is also part-time.
Okay.
her other job is part-time.
Okay, I didn't
So
know
it's all
that.
part-time,
Yeah.
yeah.
And probably of anybody, she has the most knowledge of how
Yeah.
that transportation piece.
I'm on board.
As soon as everybody hears the other job is part-time, we all go, oh, okay. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Did you say in favor, or are you abstaining?
Abstaining.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I have one more. Like to make a motion that we accept a letter of resignation from Virginia Daly as a school nurse / nursing assistant at Mill River, effective immediately. This was October 12th.
Discussion.
You have to second that motion?
No, because it came out of
That's
committee.
right, okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Okay, and then our next Personnel Committee meeting will be December 3rd at 6 o'clock. And we also are sending an exit interview form to Virginia Daly. And the committee is still working on making the form perfect. It's darn near there, but, so we're just working on some wordage and things. So, you'll be seeing that probably by the next meeting. That's all Lenny has.
Thank you, Lenny. Kim, policy.
We did not meet since last time. We have no policies right now for the board. So our next meeting is November 10th because of Veterans Day, and we're meeting at 5:30.
Okay. Building and grounds.
All right, so we had a meeting last week and we had some public comment about the fields and going in the direction of athletics and what the future of that looks like. Everybody that's on buildings and grounds is also on finance. And so part of that discussion is what does the surplus fund look like? And then we move that into finance. But just generally, like as a buildings and grounds, for the next few years, we have some larger budget items that we probably are going to have to do. And so how are we going to move forward with those is the general consensus. And then we talked about it more in finance. So let's see if we can talk about that. But just general, the other thing that we tried to talk about was how budgeting, or how does a project actually unfold, and like how to go get quotes and things. And one of the feedback that we got was for the smaller jobs, it's harder to find the people to do it. And so trying to get a better way to reach out to community members that maybe can do our smaller contractors that can get work done, and maybe trying to get stuff put into Front Porch Forum and some other means. So in the future, we may be asking board members or or other community members to maybe do a little reach out for when we're looking for quotes, just to try to get more people involved in it and just try to get more, because as you've noticed, probably we've had a lot of single quote bids, and just trying to figure out a way to get around that. And then our next meeting will be, is the last November, which is
I think it's
the
on
24th at 5.
Community engagement, Sarah?
We did not have a community engagement last month because everybody was gone. And there was not any urgent issues to be discussed at that time. Our next community engagement meeting will be before the next board meeting on November 19th with community conversations from 6 to 6:30 and community engagement meeting from 6:30 to 7.
Finance, Stephen.
Yeah, I'll start with payroll warrants. We've got a payroll warrant from October 16th in the amount of $8,211.40. From October 24th in the amount of $663,334.45. And from October 31st in the amount of $8,211.40 for a total of $679,757.25. I'll make a motion to accept these payroll warrants.
Second. No.
We've got a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Somebody count folks in the room for me.
You're good.
Thank you. And we've got accounts payable warrants. General fund in the amount of $119,702.78. General fund for $70,657.16. Food service, $75,162.32, and after school program in the amount of $1,748.45 for a total of $267,270.71. And in student activities, from Mill River for $2,153.77. From Clarendon, the amount of $1,159.97 for a total there of $3,313.74. I'll make a motion to accept these payable warrants. We have a second?
Second.
We got one.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, we had a big meeting, on the 27th, for the Finance Committee. We spent most of the meeting discussing, Stan brought us, I think this went out to the entire board, but we got sort of a rollover budget, but a tweaked rollover budget that already had some specific and strategic cuts in it. So we can take a look at that. Run through the whole thing on this section of our meeting here. But some of we basically, as a finance committee meeting, or finance committee, we're looking to kind of go on with the rollover budget and then see what it looks like with all of the proposed additions included in our final budget scenario. So that list has things like extra training and medical supplies for pre-K, what are the big ones here? Increasing the high school summer program from 4 to 5 teachers. Oh wait, no, that's in the what was included already. In the places we've asked to add specific extra things to the budget, we're looking at adding another bus driver position, for adding more CDL training, making more available to staff, looking at an outdoor maintenance position of some sort, 1.0 full-time equivalent, looking at Tinmouth, increasing the para at Tinmouth to 1.0 full-time equivalency, looking at maybe adding a 0.6 ELL staff person. So a number of different things on there that we're looking at for the draft budget, which we'll be discussing at our next finance meeting, as well as Josh alluded to, the budget surplus and how that may or may not be distributed to paying down taxes and to buildings fund. Our next meeting on December 8th. Yes, December 8th. Those will be the big agenda items for December 8th.
Is that 6 o'clock?
Sorry, say again?
6 o'clock, right? For the December 8th?
Well, we didn't, I was just about to say that. If we didn't set a time on that, I'd be happy to make that a 5 o'clock meeting. If we don't have buildings and grounds on that night.
No, because that one, we had to wait for the December 1st letter for that, so it's later than buildings and grounds.
Okay, so 5 o'clock, that's fine.
Does it work for folks as a 5 o'clock?
Yep.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say 5 then. Let's do it 5 o'clock. I think that's all I've got. I'll have another newsletter out at some point here pretty soon. Some of the big news we got was that our health insurance increases looks like it's only going to be 7.3%. Which is still a great increase, but it allowed us some more wiggle room to look at some interesting stuff that will we think benefit the district. And there was a big tuition increase for tuition students coming into the district as well, which gave us more more funds to work with for this next budget. So yeah, stay tuned, December 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Okay.
How is the tuition increase determined? Who does that? The state or?
No, we have more
Sorry, that's
students.
students from outside of district that are.
We have
are
more tuition
attending
students,
Mill
that's
River,
why our-
It's
and
just,
bringing their tuition money with them.
Okay, and I don't know, but we could ask Stan to come explain that too. I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah.
just whatever our per pupil cost is, that's our tuition cost.
Why did we get a bump from Mount Holly?
I think Stan and the business department and Cheryl, I think we set a tuition, and I think
Yeah.
we as a board vote on it or
We
approve it
approve
each
it.
year. And I think it's, I mean, Stan could speak to this, but I think it's done kind of, the state gives some guidance on that, and I think it's also kind of regionally informed as well.
Okay, so it's more complicated than I.
Memory.
All right, Transact other legal business. I think, Dave, you wanted to speak to us.
Yeah, quickly, just so I had said two things, but the first was in the last two sets of minutes, and going back 2 meetings ago, there was nothing in there about the comments that when I spoke to Chance, I suggested that they'd establish a structure to evaluate the coaches and for student athletes to give feedback at the minimum and possibly parents. We had a dialogue about that, and that was not in the minutes. I did not catch that at the Timoth meeting, which is my bad, and then we approved them. But I think it's important to acknowledge that publicly and in the minutes that we did talk about the idea of the AD developing feedback survey for student athletes to have input into the coaching experience they receive from their coaches.
So that's something you want the
I do want that
superintendent,
in there.
superintendent to follow up on, though.
Yes, well, I
Okay,
think that,
just
and
clarifying
then in
roles.
the, just also in this last minutes,
Mm-hmm.
there was also a blurb that said something to the effect of the Timoth principal gave a presentation, here's a link to it, but there was nothing about any conversation that may have happened from the board in those conversations. So perhaps it's a policy that those conversations aren't documented, because it's happened twice now, but I think it's something that we need to just be aware of. But I definitely do want there to be a reflection of the conversation about athlete feedback. for
Okay,
sure.
so we'll make sure Rebecca has that
Yeah.
in other business.
Yep.
And now should be in the minutes right now.
I hope
too.
so.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's
That's
part
all,
of the
that's all
point,
I'm
right?
looking for, yes.
Yes.
But if it is a policy, and I think we need to revisit how we record those conversations around the presentations given by principals that we're privy to. Also, I did receive, and I think we all might have got some communication from a community member regarding food and the process nature of that food at Wallingford. And
Did not.
a community member suggested that the food that's there is often highly processed, sugary, and has concerns about the healthfulness of that food. I mean, I'm not there, I don't know, my daughter doesn't complain about it, however, maybe she wouldn't, because it's sugary. So I just.
So can I make a recommendation? I did not get that
Right.
as board chair. I don't know. if
I'll
that-
forward it to you,
maybe-
of course.
No. What I would prefer is that you contact that person and ask whether you can present that during public comment. Because that is essentially public comment.
Sure.
So, and then the name of the person and if they don't want to do that, then I would have them talk to the superintendent.
Sure, I absolutely will do
Okay.
that. My thought, though, was the question that the suggestion was around budgeting, which I think is our purview.
Right.
As the board, which was to consider how we allocate funds for we contract out for food services. And I was thinking that is something, as we are looking to plan the budget for next year, we might want to look at that and then look at what sort of value we're getting and what compromises we're making as a board when we look to feed our students.
So
That's what I wanted to
that's
add.
another, since you bring that up, that was another area that we had conversations with at the VSBA conference. And Rosie Kruger, who's a former Shrewsbury student, spoke to us about the state encouraging school districts to hire food managers instead of these companies. So that's something we could have her, she's willing to, hybrid in and talk to us about that, so we
I'd
can
like that a
maybe
lot.
put that on the agenda, and then that would, it was an interesting
Because
proposition.
we also, during the last listening session, that was
Oh, right.
we had a conversation all
That's what
about
I
it.
was
So,
gonna
but
bring up, so.
it's,
Thank you.
but of bringing back to it as, it's something that we should talk about as a board. Because we have two examples of it occurring in our school district.
I think they
in our
were
mill.
both at one.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like we
Two
have two
schools that do
schools
it.
that produce their own food,
Right.
that do their own food menus. So it's something that we already have prototypes for, and so we
Right.
could continue the conversation. Unfortunately, we do have a contract for 3 years.
But
But we can, but we have to offer,
Well,
but
Yeah, yeah, we're
if,
gonna
I
have to
think,
react to
I
that.
think that you don't have to renew it another year.
that, you
That's
think
what
that is how it works?
Rosie can
Okay.
talk to us about that,
Fantastic.
or something about
good.
that. Okay? So, yeah, so we'll follow up on that. Please tell your person and invite them to come talk
I
to
will,
us. We
yep.
don't, we heard we're nicer than we
Yeah,
used to
no,
be.
I definitely will do that, and I'm
That
sorry
was,
if I broke
someone said that
protocol
at the
by
last meeting. I was like,
pressing-
oh,
You'll be
good.
nice too.
Will be nice. Okay, so, as far as agenda building,
Oh,
I'm
mine's got
sorry.
That's okay.
You gotta speak up.
Well, I was waiting.
know me,
You did a great
job.
I'm being
Way too
patient.
You know
polite.
me, time.
Goodness gracious. Okay.
No, go ahead.
I'll be very quick.
Time.
Update on the 50th celebration of Mill River. We're looking at purchasing a couple of banners to go out front. That should be happening soon. And my understanding is that any day now we'll have a website up where folks can go and post photos or information. And Tracy Spencer is also started a head count, so we can get some idea of how many folks we're looking at come June, whatever, 6th, I believe it is. So that's all. So we're moving along.
Okay, I'll slow down. Anybody else for other legal business? I'm sorry. All right, so agenda building, you're gonna follow up on transportation.
Yep.
And we're gonna look at our schedule to see what we have on there.
So what we have on there is next meeting, we are at Wallingford,
Oh,
is the
okay.
plan. And then it does say, progress on board goals and, progress on goals, Board of Education. That's what's listed.
Okay.
Which goals are those?
It's just to review our goals,
Board goals.
board goals. Yeah. And then whatever else,
Right, and that's all that's listed right there.
well,
You might,
so we'll have the principal report.
right, right.
Okay, oh, and then you'll have your community conversation there.
Well, I guess the community conversation, would be,
At Wallingford.
so when that gets,
And honestly,
Warned.
our community conversation essentially at Tinmouth was to take a tour and see,
what was going on.
what's going on.
Mhm.
So maybe we can do that. Maybe you can do
Well, there's
your-
been some things going on at Wallingford too that has caused concerns.
Yeah, so what, maybe that's,
Let's all go look at the gate.
yeah, I'm curious about
Or
that.
the water.
The gate has been corrected, thank you, Cheryl.
So
I've got Gary Fredette off my back.
Is there a big
so-
puddle from the water?
maybe your committee could meet at
Sewer truck pump
6,
the
and then the
sewer
tour
during
could be at 6:30. It's dark by then, though.
It's totally dark. I mean,
Start by 6.
it's really dark.
Yeah, it's gonna
It's
be
not
dark,
just a
but we
little
could do the inside of the school.
I know Phil is very excited that that green carpet is gone. So
Okay.
you can,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can ooh and ah over
It's
his
nice,
floors.
that white
You're
hallway,
happy.
whoa,
Yeah.
so much better.
So,
Bring a flashlight.
Maybe we'll talk about that.
yeah, we'll talk about that. Sounds good. All right. Anything else for the good?
I have something, we'll have an executive session I'd like to have at the end,
Oh, okay.
to discuss, I guess,
Personnel.
Say it.
personnel issue.
Tonight or the next meeting?
No,
Next week.
Or next meeting.
Yeah, we'll put it on the
I just
agenda.
misunderstood. Tonight or at the next meeting?
Oh, the next meeting, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We're all kind of getting tired.
I know.
Bedtime. Okay. All right.
One other thing, I just
Oh,
want
go
to add,
ahead.
Did we want to reach out to Rosie? By we,
Probably
I mean me.
Not for the next meeting.
Okay.
But maybe the meeting after
Potentially the
that.
meeting after, okay.
Yeah.
Which would be December
I think
3rd,
because we're at Wallingford, we don't have the hybrid and.
Although I am going to try to see if we can get hybrid, because if we've got this TV here, I don't know why we can't, they have to have that in Wallingford.
Yeah, all the rooms, it's
Yeah,
just
they
whether or
have
not
smart
they,
they have smart
do they
TVs.
have them on, because in Tinmouth, a bunch of them are on
Yeah,
wheels.
they're on
or
bills.
they're wheels.
They should be able to roll one in.
So shouldn't we be able to, I'll have
Well,
to
you have to
ask
have the
BJ.
cameras, and you have to have the,
Oh, yeah, the cameras, huh?
those
You
things.
can do it via Zoom, if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Have to be on somebody's individual.
All right, I'm going to adjourn at 9:05.